Hey everyone, welcome back to the American Justice Podcast, episode 17, the video Q&A for Joe Hagaman and Dustin Perry. We hope everybody enjoyed the episode. I am Derick Miller. I am your co-writer, and this over here next to me is
Scott Poggensee.
Scott Poggensee. But you guys knew that already. You're not just picking up on this episode. I'm sure you've seen all the others. You probably know more about this than we do.
At least until this point.
Yeah, at least until this point. Scott, how has your week been?
Oh, man. Just like 100 miles an hour, like pedal to the metal, man. It's just mile a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what other euphemisms I can throw in.
Right. Mine's going exactly the same way between book stuff and I got a virtual conference coming up this Saturday where I'm actually, me and some guys put an anthology together last year, and we're up for Anthology of the Year. So
nice. That'll
be nice. But just, man, I just really hate that this conference is all online. It's all virtual because it was one of the funnest things I did last year, and I was so looking forward to this year. But
yeah, you want to meet your fans in person, right?
Yeah, you do. But good times. We'll have them again someday, I'm sure.
Yeah, when we get the vaccine.
When we get the vaccine, so we'll probably do that at the conference. We'll all shoot each other up.
Just like have a little booth, like as you come in, vaccine.
The guy who puts this all together is a guy, just a quick shout out, by the name of Rath James White. He's an extreme horror author. He's also an ex-UFC fighter.
Ooh, tough guy.
Huge, intimidating guy.
Yeah, remind me not to mess with him.
And we have contests to see, like, against him, to see, like, who can eat the, like, hottest wings, or who can take the hardest punch from him. Stuff like that.
What?
Yeah.
Do you have a medic standing by?
I haven't volunteered for any of that crap yet. Jeez. I just stood by and watched. But yeah.
I guess there's some people out there.
I can just imagine that being next year's like dare is to let him give you the COVID vaccine.
Right.
Here you go. No, not this guy.
I wonder if we could get Joe to volunteer to be the guy that takes the hit.
Now wait, wasn't Dustin the one that worked at the vet's office, and he knew all sorts of things about needles and steroids and everything?
Right.
He was giving out his best advice.
Yeah, they get some of those horse needles up here. No, I was talking about the guy that takes the hit from him. They punch him in the stomach.
Yeah, that guy.
Think Joe would be man enough to do it? Joe, this is a challenge.
Magic 8 Ball, all sources say no.
What's this guy's name? Joe Rath something?
Rath James White.
Rath James White. Joe, this is an official challenge. Next time that this conference goes on, we want you up there to take a hit from James White.
Rath James White. Actually, if I brought Rath James White up to speed on all the details of this case, he would probably just hit him out of spite.
He'd be just there just for fun.
He's that kind of guy. He's a cool guy.
Awesome.
Real cool guy.
Well, hello, Rath. Don't let me ever get on the other opposite side of you.
Right. Big scary dude.
Big scary.
All right, we've got some questions and comments this week from episode 17. Let's start out with Edie from Rockwall.
Yes. Hey, Edie.
Why did the investigators never ask Charla, Dustin, Joe, or Mike if they had any knowledge of the deaths of Dennis and Norma, or who they might have suspected did it? That's a damn good question, Edie.
I think we've all been kind of wondering that in the back of our minds, like what, I think obviously on the surface, the obvious answer is that they had their suspect, they had their guy, so they didn't really suspect anyone else. They didn't really think it was anyone else. But, it all goes back to the same thing. If you're a competent investigator, if you're really out there just for the truth, just to find out who actually killed these two people, then you're going to ask everybody, you know? You're going to ask the mailman coming in to drop the mail off. Like, hey, where were you on the night of October 16th? We're looking for the.
That's not how it went, though. It's like, all right, now, I don't want you to tell me who you thought did it. I want to know how we can, like, mold
this case into making it to where Brandon did it.
Right. Tell me all you know about Brandon. And that's all these interviews are, is just tell me all about Brandon. And I would challenge you to find an investigator out there, an independent investigator that feels like this is the best way to conduct an investigation. And I don't think we'll have any takers on that, because I don't think that anybody would endorse that style of investigation. So, that's that. But you're right, Edie, exactly. The question is, why didn't they? And obviously they felt like they had their man.
I think there are investigators out there that have turned this podcast into a drinking game. Every time they hear an investigator do something stupid, they have to take a shot.
And I also, I go back to the fact that there's just no hard evidence, and that's what they're searching for. If this was one of those cases where Brandon's, the gun was found in his truck and there was DNA all over him and all over his truck, and it was, if it was irrefutable that it was Brandon, then I can understand, okay, well, we don't really need to look anywhere else. But there wasn't that in this case. And you can tell that what they're doing is really just searching for more evidence to build their case. They're not searching for background information because they've already built their case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and it doesn't get any better from here on out.
No.
The next couple of weeks covers the rest of Ranger Collins' report, just touching on things here and there to finish up the report, and it doesn't get any better, folks.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't get any better at all.
It does not. It's actually gets a lot worse.
Edie from Rockwall, thank you very much for your question.
Thank you, Edie, for asking the question we all are wondering.
Yes. All right, the next one is just a comment. I threw it in there for complete craps and giggles. I'll use nice terminology. This one comes from Anonymous, not the organization, not those people, but just someone who wanted to stay anonymous. It reads, Sebastian kind of sounded like a man. Is Joe gay?
Well, thank you, Anonymous, for that question. It, by all accounts, from all the investigation that I've done in this case, it doesn't sound like Joe is gay. However, I have had at least one person come forward and tell me in secret, anonymously, that they did have sex with Joe, and it was a man. So, I mean, is it possible he was just experimenting? Is it possible he's bisexual and he's just kind of repressing that? Is it possible that he's gay and he's completely repressing it? Who knows? Nobody knows anyone else's sexuality. But, the thing is, it's, if he is hiding it, obviously he would be doing it for the same reasons that Brandon was. It's just not cool to come out as gay in Rockwall, Texas, or East Texas at all. So, that's you can't really determine that, but I will say that, like I said, I've had someone come forward that and they wouldn't even get on camera anonymously like Sebastian did. I mean, this was, hey, I'm just telling you this in secret. If you ever ask, if you ever tell anyone, I'll deny it. But I think that's because there's a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that are afraid of Joe. And we have, I think, demonstrated in the episode why that is. But we are not here at the American Justice Podcast afraid of Joe.
I've thought that about a couple of people in this case. I've thought that there was a possibility that there could have been some envy toward Brandon and him coming out, because maybe they were the same way and they just didn't have the courage to do what Brandon did. So maybe even jealousy, even with the dancing, or just. I mean, let's face it. I mean, gay men have more fun, right? I mean, just
I agree, because I've had several people, not just one or two, but I've had several people that have come forward after analyzing Mike's interview and said, "Man, he is just jealous of Brandon. Like, that's all this is. It's just classic jealousy, and he's envious of him, and all these things about Mike towards Brandon." And I always kind of pass it off as, sometimes that kind of stuff may come across that way, because obviously he's there in the interview with an agenda. He's there to talk about Brandon and talk about all good, well, not some of the good things, but all the bad things that he did and all this stuff. So, that it may come across that way just because, if I'm going into an interview just to talk about Chad, it may seem like I'm obsessed with him because that's all I'm talking about is Chad. But you're there for the express reason of talking about that person. So
Trust
it may
me,
seem that.
there is nothing worth getting obsessed over me. I'm just,
Your wife may disagree.
my wife would totally disagree.
Hi, Sam.
My ex-wives would not.
They would totally agree.
Yeah, they would 100%. They're like, yeah, get over him. All right, thank you, Anonymous, for planting that seed in our head. We'll think about it from now until the end of time. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to do one more question really quick, and then we're going to take a break. This comes from Clint in Dallas.
Hey, Clint.
Glad I said that correctly.
Clint?
Yes.
Oh.
Sometimes I get a little tongue-tied.
Dallas?
No,
You're talking about Dallas?
No, not Dallas. No pun intended either. I get a little tongue-tied when I say Clint.
I would hate to have the name. Hi, Clint.
Wow. Okay, Clint from Dallas asks, he's a myth, you know that, right?
He's a myth?
Yeah, the Clint is a myth.
Oh.
Sorry.
Outtakes.
All right. Have any other women come forward regarding Joe's sexual escapades since the airing of this episode? That's how it always seems to happen in Hollywood.
Well, not since the airing of this episode, since that was just 5 days ago. But there's, like I said, I've talked to several people that know Joe, knew him back then and know him now. And every single one of them would only talk to me off the record. And that's because, obviously, they still know him and they're still afraid of what he might do. So, it doesn't, I could have, 50 women could have come forward and talk about that. If they're talking anonymously, there's not going to come forward, then what does it matter? You know what I mean? So we're waiting. We're still waiting for those people that will come forward and say it on the record. But maybe one day.
Yeah. Until then, Joe Hagaman, I hear Jell-O is looking for a new spokesperson. If they would bring back Jell-O pudding pops, I would totally still eat them if they had Joe Hagaman's picture on the box.
I don't know. I don't know that I would.
No, I totally would. Bring back Jell-O pudding pops. I mean, if anybody out there watching this is old enough to still remember Jell-O pudding pops, I know that you remember how they taste, and they were amazing. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop the shenanigans, and we're gonna take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Central Vapors is the premier online vape store that you've been looking for. If you are currently buying e-juice for e-cigs, you are more than likely spending way too much. You can save money by buying in bulk. No, we're not talking Sam's Club buy it by the gallon bulk. We're talking flavored e-juice in 120, 250, or 500 milliliter bottles. Think about it this way. 8 bottles of 30 milliliter e-juice would cost you anywhere from $100 to over $250. But at Central Vapors, a 250 milliliter bottle is only $28.95. And if you use the code AJARMY, you'll save 50% off your first 3 orders of bulk e-juice. Central Vapors is one of the largest independent retailers of e-cig supplies in the country. They provide all your vaping needs from e-juice to DIY supplies to pens and custom e-cigs. They even have CBD oil as well. With $2.99 shipping on all orders under $50 and free shipping over $50, you will not be disappointed. Customer satisfaction is always guaranteed. Head on over to centralvapors.com/AJARMY to claim your 50% discount on your first 3 orders of bulk e-juice today. You won't find a deal like that anywhere. Again, that's centralvapors.com/AJARMY.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the video Q&A for episode 17 of the American Justice Podcast. We hope you're doing okay. We're going to get on with the questions here. We have 3 more, so stick with us. All right, this one comes from Jonathan in Bedford, Texas.
Bedford. Didn't Jonathan Seems like we had someone from Bedford. I wonder if it was Jonathan, like 10 episodes ago.
Might have been. Jonathan might be one of those dedicated
Are you
listeners.
sticking with us, Jonathan? We appreciate.
Are we going to have to do a song like we do for Debbie? Debbie from Plano.
Debbie from Plano. We don't have a
Johnny
question
from
Debbie.
Bedford.
He calls in every week.
All right. Jonathan from Bedford asks,
Yes.
other than the fight at school, none of Joe's testimony is firsthand information. Why was any of this information relevant to a capital murder case? Even worse, why would a professional investigator even entertain hours upon hours of useless interviews? I'm sure you guys can only speculate at this point. Damn it.
With an exclamation point.
Yes.
Like, damn it. I think it goes back to the same question as why would Ranger Collins use any of this speculation in an arrest affidavit? It's this whole case, and especially when we get through the trial and all of that stuff, you'll see that this whole case is built upon hearsay, upon hearsay, upon hearsay. And it's, he said this and she said that. And, that's what this whole case is. I've challenged many people that I've talked to about this case that are on quote unquote the prosecution side. I challenge them to show me any evidence, direct evidence, that shows that Brandon is guilty. And there is none. There's no eyewitness. There's no DNA. So this whole case is literally built on character assassination and speculation.
And circumstance.
And so, the question is, why would Ranger Collins sit there and listen to Joe talk about all this third-hand knowledge? Well, why not? He's talked to everybody else about third-hand knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, that's all he seems to be getting. He doesn't have any first-hand. That kind of goes back to Edie's question. Why aren't they asking him, do you know anything about these murders? Have you heard anything about the actual murders themselves? There's none of that. It's all tell me about Brandon.
Well, it was never about solving the case. It was a puzzle of how they could transform Brandon into the ideal suspect of this case.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Jonathan. from
Sorry,
Bedford.
I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's
right.
it.
But, hey, Jonathan, as a member of the American Justice Army, you can help us find the answers to these questions.
That's right.
Okay, this one right here, it wasn't a comment. I mean, it wasn't a question. It was just a comment, and I decided to include it nonetheless. This comes from Sylvia in Norman, Oklahoma.
Hey, Sylvia.
And she even says, "This is less of a question and more of a comment." You wonder where I got that from.
Right.
I listen to a lot, and
A lot is
capitalized,
Nice.
of true crime podcast, and I've never capitalized heard a witness ask for a yes or no scenario. It's almost like Dustin was afraid he would step on his own tongue or mess up Mike's scripted story.
That's a very valid point. That's a good comment, Sylvia. That's exactly right, because it seems like throughout the whole interview, even if you watch Dustin's interview all the way through, it seems like he doesn't want to give any information. It's almost like he just doesn't want to be there. And I don't know if it's more of I don't want to give anything away that I don't, that I may not want to. I don't want to trip myself up, or I don't want to start talking about one, kind of like we do sometimes. We start talking about one thing and we just end up on 5 or 6 different subjects. And, so maybe he just doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to reveal any of the information he doesn't want to reveal, So I don't know if that's it. I don't know if it's just his personality, where he's just kind of, as we talked about in the episode, just kind of a yep, yep,
I need to hurry up and go get my mustard and biscuits.
Right. So, yeah. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know. Obviously the more kind of dark, nefarious angle to that is he knows something about the murders and he doesn't want to give that up either. So who knows? That's it. You're right. It's just speculation at this point.
I don't know nothing about none of that.
Okay. Sylvia, thank you for your comment, and I hope you enjoyed your sling bladed impressions that came along with it.
I know I did.
Okay, this last question comes from Christy in Commerce. Now, I thought when I first began to read this, I thought that this was actually an insult aimed at us, but it does end on a high note. And there's so much humor in it, personal humor, I think, that I decided to include it anyway.
Okay.
She said, I'd like to say that this is a useless episode, but it comes from two useless witnesses in a useless investigation. Did Hunt County keep the receipt for this investigation? Are any of the taxpayers due a refund? Keep up the good work, guys. Christy from Commerce.
Thank you, Christy. Yeah, they definitely need a refund on this one. The problem is, and the reason that we're doing the podcast, the reason we're doing the documentary is because if you just read the papers, if you just listen to the police, if you just look at the prosecution side of this and the media side of this, you're going to think Brandon's guilty as well, because they don't want to give you the things. You know, it's kind of like the same premise as Ranger Collins is not looking at anything that's exculpatory. If there's anybody that comes forward that has information that shows that Brandon might not have done this, he just dismisses them. Or in what's his name, Todd Williams's case, he actively threatens him. So it's like if someone comes forward and gives information that Brandon is innocent, he just dismisses it. The same thing goes on in the media. If there's anything that really makes Brandon look innocent, they kind of dismiss that because that's not the salaciousness that's going to sell a paper. You know, like they want, oh, look at this guy that killed both of his parents and he's such an evil guy and this is such a juicy story. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for, like, what we're trying to promote is the fact that this guy is innocent and, you know, the system got it wrong.
Right. There was so much more came to mind as I was reading the remainder of Ranger Collins' report. We're talking from Joe Hagaman's interview to when the report ends, which it's a lot of information, but it is a lot of useless, redundant information and wasted time. But there were a couple of things that come up that I touch on. I actually leave a couple of writer's notes in the two upcoming episodes to explain a few things as far as the inner workings of Hunt County.
Hunt County.
So you'll definitely want to listen for that. I'm curious as to how many people that listen to this podcast have actually Googled Hunt County in Greenville, Texas. Greenville. Oh God, it came out of me. It came out of me just then. I said Greenville. I didn't say Greenville. I say Greenville. Greenville, Texas.
Greenville, Texas.
Greenville, Texas. I wonder how many people have Googled Greenville, Texas, and look at images and saw the sign, the infamous Greenville, Texas sign that hung across the main street of the city until sometime in the late 60s.
I was going to say 60s, I think.
Yeah, it's the late 60s. It said, "Welcome to Greenville, the blackest land, the whitest people." I'm not kidding. Look it up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, just do a Google search. You'll see the picture. We actually have that in the documentary. We show when we start talking about Greenville, we show that picture.
It's insane. It's insane. And just because you take the sign down doesn't mean that the mentality changes.
Right. And it's and the other thing about this, and this is something that we will highlight in the film, is there seems to be some kind of good old boy corruption in the city. And we highlight that. We have several people that are talking about that. And one case of it is, and I don't want to get too far, but in a few episodes we'll talk about the Sixth Amendment violation that Brandon had. And the person that violated his Sixth Amendment not only did not get reprimanded, but she got elected to a state
she's a
district court.
She's a district judge. And she follows me on Instagram.
Well, but we'll talk all about her. I think episode 3 more episodes.
Yeah,
from now.
episode 20.
Yeah, so that's
Sixth Amendment violation.
You know, and you will be when you hear the flagrant disregard for the Constitution that this person did, you will not only want a refund on the investigation, But we're definitely hoping that somebody, I was going to say somebody runs against her, but she's already won the primary for this election. So she's pretty much,
Right.
once you win the Republican primary in Hunt County, there's
You're
nobody going to run against you.
No one's going to run against you because nobody's on the Democratic ticket.
But I will say that, the fact that she just did not face any censure, any kind of repercussions from her own department, her own city, her own county, that just shows that, there's so much kind of good old boy mentality there.
And Investigator Terry Jones from this case just got elected sheriff as well.
Yeah. And we'll definitely talk about what a shitty job he did.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking around. We will see you guys next week for the video Q&A for episode 18. Don't forget to listen on Sunday.
That's right.
It's going to be a good one.
That's right. So until then, they should what? Stay aware, stay strong,
and get involved.
At least you can remember the end of it.
I do remember the end of it. I always remember the end of it.
Bye, guys. See you next time.
Later.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bonus section of this week's Q&A episode. And I am totally catching C. Derick by surprise. He has no idea that this is happening right now.
I don't. I'm like, what in the hell is this man about to do?
This is our first bonus section. Are you excited?
I am excited and a little scared at the same time.
Well, I remember I was listening to your podcast, Butterflies Make Me Angry, which, by the way, I think is one of the greatest titles of a podcast ever. But I was listening to it a couple weeks, and you were talking about that you have some books that are out of print, and if you Google search them or search on Amazon, you might be able to find like an out of print copy or whatever. So I went on Amazon.
Oh no!
And I did a search, and I found a copy from I think it was a Goodwill store in like Cincinnati.
Oh my God!
That had this book listed, but I have a copy.
Oh no!
The Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter, right here, and I am going to ask on air for Mr. C. Derick Miller to autograph this for me.
There's a story behind this book, but I refuse to elaborate on the air.
Well, I thought it was interesting because you were talking about how this is like part of your past life and you're never going to go there again. And, kind of paranormal stuff is interesting to me. I won't say I've become like a fanatic or anything, but I've always been interested in the paranormal. And then so I was like, man, that's really cool. I'm going to get this book and I'm going to read it and just kind of see what C. Derick's past life was like.
You're in for a big surprise. This book is basically when I began my I guess journey into paranormal investigation, I would keep journals.
Okay.
Almost daily. Not just about the investigations. I would also keep it about my personal life, and it would all kind of flow together. And the whole thing ended up being some big, almost Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas type gonzo journalism, Hunter S. Thompson, between the ghost and how it was affecting my personal life, and it jumped back and forth. So this book right here is basically my life, like no filters, no hold barred, my life from probably 2005 to about 2015. So about 10 years.
Wow.
I almost called it a decade of shadows, but I wanted to give the gonzo, I wanted to give the Hunter S. Thompson little, and I gave all these journals to an author out of the UK by the name of Ray Louise. She's a very talented author, and she turned all of those journals into this book right here, which is no longer on the market. It obviously can be found if you look hard enough.
And you cannot get one from the Goodwill in Cincinnati because I have it.
I can't believe that you found this. But yes, you're about to find out way more about me than you ever knew.
All right.
Oh, man, I can't believe you did this.
Our first ever bonus episode. We should do this and see if people like this. We should do it kind of on a regular basis or irregular basis, as the case may be.
Oh, my goodness. In the meantime, you can get copies of the books that I have that are on the market, which is And Hell Followed, which is an anthology with me and a dozen other horror authors. It is up for an award this week for Splatterpunk Anthology of the Year. Also, Dig Two Graves, which is another anthology that is up for Splatterpunk Anthology of the Year. Also, my novels Extinguished, A Taste at Home, and Far From Home. And then in about 6 weeks, you will get my splatter western novella titled Starving Zoe.
Starving Zoe.
So, yes, good luck finding this one. The others are really, really easy to find. You can get those at cderickmiller.com or on Amazon.
And if you do happen to get one of these or any of his other books, I'm sure if you send them in, he will autograph them for you.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I totally will.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the bonus episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye.